You mentioned earlier, it was 42 minutes between the time he was playing with that camera and the time her device disconnected from her phone or her watch. And this guy was taking his time. He wasn't in a rush.
At 1:47 a.m., the world went dark for Nancy Guthrie. But the most shocking evidence isn't what happened in her bedroom. It's what was discovered in a small, temporary workspace used by her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni. For weeks, the world believed Tommaso was miles away, tucked safely in bed with his wife Annie, holding a perfect alibi and the distance to prove it. But investigators have just uncovered a digital footprint in a guest corner of Nancy's home that shatters that alibi into a million pieces. In this investigation, we are exposing a 41-minute window of digital execution, revealing how a device, linked directly to Tommaso, triggered a total security blackout at 1:47 a.m. and silenced Nancy's pacemaker at 2:28 a.m., transforming this disappearance from a mystery into a technical assassination of the truth, where the evidence found in that guest room changes everything we thought we knew about the night Nancy Guthrie vanished. The investigation into Nancy Guthrie's disappearance has always been haunted by the word access, because, as an 84-year-old creature of habit, her world was small and secure, and the lack of forced entry, shattered glass, or jimmied locks on the night of February 1st told Sheriff Chris Nanos and the FBI immediately that whoever took Nancy was invited or already held the digital keys to the kingdom. While the public was distracted by fluctuating ransom prices dropping from millions to a mere $35,000, the FBI's Cellular Analysis Survey Team, CAST, was looking at the silent witnesses, questioning how Tommaso Cioni, the grieving family member who was allegedly miles away, could be linked to the crime through the hardware left behind. Though Tommaso did not have a personal bedroom at Nancy's, he was a frequent visitor who used a small guest area and a corner desk for his work. And when forensic teams swept the house for the third time, they found a small, unassuming smart home bridge tucked behind a power strip with a serial number that matched a private network registered to Tommaso Cioni rather than Nancy. This unbelievable evidence reveals that at exactly 1:47 a.m., while Tommaso was supposedly at his own home, this device inside Nancy's house received an encrypted remote command to disable perimeter security, suppressing the doorbell camera and motion sensors in a tactical blackout executed from within the very guest space Tommaso occupied. This wasn't just a simple power outage, it was a targeted surgical strike on Nancy's safety net, proving that someone didn't need to be standing in the hallway to pull the plug on her security. The digital forensics experts began to peel back layers of network traffic, finding that the command originated from a localized IP address that had been spoofed or mirrored, but the physical hardware in that guest corner was the bridge that carried the signal. Between 1:47 a.m. and 2:28 a.m., the timeline shows Nancy was still inside, but she was invisible. And the most chilling detail was the interaction with her pacemaker, which syncs wirelessly with a base station. At 2:28 a.m., that sync was broken, not because her heart stopped, but because the distance between her body and the room became too great. This suggests the same device used to kill the cameras was used to jam the pacemaker's frequency or create a localized dead zone, allowing a silent extraction of an 84-year-old woman in a 41-minute window that Tommaso's personal hardware facilitated despite his physical absence. Investigators began to realize that 41 minutes is not a random number. It is the exact amount of time required to move a non-ambulatory person from a second-story bedroom to a vehicle parked in a pre-planned blind spot, all while the digital ghost in the guest area kept the sensors flatlined. This discovery shifts the motive from a random kidnapping to a cold, calculated inside job, suggesting the ransom demands were merely a distraction to keep police looking for international hackers, while the real evidence sat in a guest room corner in Tucson. The psychological profile of the perpetrator began to emerge. Someone who knew the exact frequency of Nancy's medical devices, someone who knew that the doorbell camera had a 3-second lag in its cloud upload, and someone who knew that the family's dinner alibi would provide the perfect cover. Investigators are now mapping proximity behavior and every reconnaissance mission disguised as a family dinner, posing the question that if Tommaso was not there, why was his digital signature the last thing Nancy's security system saw before it died? Furthermore, the analysis of the ransom notes revealed a startling pattern of linguistic desperation. The shift from professional-grade demands to low-level Bitcoin requests suggested that the perpetrator was losing control of the narrative as the FBI's technical net began to close in on the guest corner evidence. Every time Tommaso entered that house for a casual visit, the cast team now believes he was actually fine-tuning the signal strength of the hidden bridge, ensuring that when the moment came, the 41-minute blackout would be absolute. This isn't just about a missing person anymore. It's about the betrayal of the ultimate sanctuary, the home. As Savannah Guthrie returned to the screen, the pressure in the interrogation rooms reached a boiling point. Because while she maintained her public composure, the technical data was whispering a different story behind closed doors. We are at a point of convergence where the timeline, the digital guest room evidence, and the behavioral shifts all point to a conclusion where the truth was left behind in the hardware. And as the remote command theory gains weight, the kidnapping theory dies. The evidence suggests that the kidnappers weren't a gang or a cartel, but a single digital presence that had been living in the shadows of Nancy's guest workspace for months. This hardware acted as a Trojan horse, a silent observer that sat dormant during family dinners, only to wake up and devour the security protocols the moment the house was supposed to be at its safest. The forensic mapping of the guest area also revealed that the device had been accessing Nancy's internal router for weeks prior to February 1st, meaning the perpetrator had been practicing the blackout, running dry runs of the camera interference to ensure no alerts would be sent to Nancy's phone. This level of premeditation is chilling because it implies that every time Tommaso sat at that corner desk with his laptop, he wasn't just working. He was calculating the exact moment he could vanish Nancy without leaving a physical trace. The unbelievable part of this evidence is the sheer arrogance of leaving the device behind, perhaps believing that the FBI would never look past the messy red herring of the ransom emails and the arrested decoys like Derek Kella. But the cast team's reconstruction shows that the command to re-enable the cameras was never sent, proving that whoever initiated the blackout intended for the house to stay digitally dead until they were long gone. Someone knows why a guest area became a digital kill switch, and with a $1 million reward still active, the pressure is on the person who used Nancy's trust to bypass her security. Because the evidence is in the room, the truth is in the data, and the data never forgets. Even the most sophisticated encryption leaves a trace, a heat signature in the server logs that investigators have finally pinned to that specific corner desk, proving that while Tommaso was physically miles away, his digital shadow was standing right at Nancy's bedside at 2:28 a.m. The silence from the legal team and the shifting stories from the inner circle only add fuel to the fire as the FBI prepares to move from investigation to apprehension based on the hardware that should have never been there. This hardware didn't just record the crime, it enabled it, acting as the invisible hand that guided the extraction while the world looked the other way. The 41-minute gap is no longer a void. It is now filled with the cold, hard logic of digital signals originating from a workspace that was supposed to be a place of family and trust. Nancy Guthrie deserved a quiet retirement, not to become a pawn in a digital chess game played by the people she loved most. And as the world watches, the 41-minute mystery is finally being solved, one bite at a time. The final question isn't whether the evidence exists, but how much longer the people involved can pretend it doesn't. Because in the high-stakes world of forensic reconstruction, the guest who leaves a digital key behind is the guest who never truly left the scene of the crime. By the time the sun rose on February 2nd, the trap was already set. But the hardware in that guest corner remained, a ticking time bomb of data that has finally exploded, exposing the darkest secret of the Cioni-Guthrie circle.